What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, back on the show. Amanda, good to have you back on.
Yeah, always good to be here, guys. I know it's been a little bit since the season wrapped up, and there's been a lot going on. So I'm excited to talk some of the going ons and the movements we've seen from teams, and kind of project what we think is going to happen next.
Yeah, a crazy 2023 season comes to an end, and now we're starting to get some action this off season, and it's going to be a fun off season and a lot of movement, and we're seeing that already with the Denver Broncos, and it seemed like this was the direction it was headed when they benched Russell Wilson towards the end of the season. But me and you disagreed with the move at the time. I mean, what do you think now? Like it's come full circle. They release him, and the Broncos are eating 85 million dollars in dead money and dead cap, which is by far the most in NFL history, more than double the second most, which was 40 million with Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers. This is unprecedented. And I mean, what's your thoughts on it? Because I thought Russell Wilson was still playing some pretty good football.
Yeah, I mean, I think he went through a bit of a rough patch, but we definitely saw him kind of pull the game together. I mean, they had that winning streak, in the mid to later half of the season, and it looked like they were kind of pulling things together. So it seems honestly to me like it was a culture issue because we've seen teams who are interested in Russ, who have asked about Russ over the years. And obviously, I mean, it definitely matters who your coach is and what team you're on. But it just seemed like he wasn't a good culture fit there. And now, I mean, they've cleared house. Like Jerry Jeudy being gone. At this point, I'm surprised Cortland Sutton is still there, but he's got to be getting lonely on that roster at this point.
Yeah, they release one of their best defenders and safety Justin Simmons. Then they trade Jerry Jeudy to the Browns today. So you can see the complete rebuild is going on. But let's put yourself in being a Broncos fan's shoes for a second. Would you be happy? I mean, Russell Wilson's a pretty good talent. You're eating a tremendous amount of dead cap with 85 mil. And what's the situation? How are you going to replace him? I mean, if you had someone that you could bring in that would be as productive, even or even close to it, I would say okay, maybe, but that's a lot of dead cap to take on. I don't see how are they gonna be anywhere near competitive next year? It seems to be like a long rebuild, and I don't
Mhm.
know who they're gonna have at quarterback, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I could see one of these backup quarterbacks that really stepped in during, the year of the backup quarterback last year, who, aren't owed a lot of money this coming season. I could see them picking up, one of those backups that had 2 to 3 good weeks in a row. But I just don't know what they're doing. Like you mentioned the previous high amount of money from Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers that teams have eaten in contracts that they've, let people walk with. And I mean, Matt Ryan's was its own thing, but like Aaron Rodgers, the only reason the Packers ate that 40 million is because he played 4 snaps. Like
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't a situation where they were like, all right, we really dislike you this much. We're gonna let you go and eat this money. Like there was money tied to, every snap he played, every game he played, how far he made it into the postseason. Like, so there was, I mean, that was worst case scenario for the Packers in that situation. So the way that
Yeah,
played out versus like how we're seeing this, like 80, it's insane. It's clearly a sign of we really dislike you and dislike how the locker room feels about you. Management isn't getting along with you. There's some personality issues there that are happening because no team is going to eat 85 mil on a quarterback who was showing signs of productivity,
yeah. I
who,
think
he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. No team
I
is going
think
to eat that much money unless there is that much of an issue between him and the head coach.
Yeah, and I think that boils down to it's Sean Payton, right? I think that's
Mhm.
what all signs are pointing to. It's like Sean Payton, once he got to a certain point, and he just put it all on Russ, and Russ is the fall guy. But we agree that Russ, I mean, he wasn't terrible this last year. He was
Yeah,
pretty good. I mean,
there were
it
signs of
wasn't,
life.
yeah, it wasn't Russ that gave up 70 points to the Dolphins, right?
Yeah.
You know, like there was a lot more issues with the Broncos than just Russell Wilson, and to be honest, I thought he was one of their brighter aspects, one of the bright spots of the team. He kept them in a lot of games. He had them on a 5 game winning streak
Yeah.
to kind of turn the season around. So I don't get it. If I'm a Broncos fan, I'm not happy.
Mm-mm.
It's a tremendous amount of dead cap. Now you're going complete rebuild with getting rid of Jerry Jeudy, getting rid of Justin Simmons, and there's been some talk about Sean Payton being very interested in Michigan quarterback J.J. McCarthy. So him potentially going around number 12 overall pick there. They could go quarterback there. They could go corner. Some people are talking about Terry and Arnold out of Bama. What do you think? I know you're a Michigan fan of J.J. McCarthy potentially going to the Broncos at 12.
So obviously the Broncos have committed to taking 2 years to rebuild because there's not a whole lot you can do with, cap space when you're eating 40 million a year for the next 2 years, you know?
Yeah.
So my thoughts on JJ, I think he's a good guy. He's a hard worker. He understands a lot about the sport. He's very like his football IQ is insane. However, as far as the quarterbacks who are in the draft this year, the ones who are like ready to go this year and be competitive, he's not in my top 10. But
Hmm.
if you are a team who is looking to rebuild for the next 2 to 3 years and build someone with that team and build around them, JJ would be a great pick for the Broncos. I think that makes a lot of sense because I don't think he's NFL ready. I think he needs to, he needs to cook a little bit. He needs to work with the team. And I mean, they're in a rebuild, so that makes a ton of sense to me. But I think he would do better behind a veteran quarterback. So I don't know if they're, trying to pull Flacco over or one of these, veteran journeyman backup quarterbacks to kind of work with him and just, teach him kind of the way of the NFL during those first couple years. But
Yeah.
I'll be intrigued to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and the issue is if you don't have someone like Aaron Rodgers or so what I would have done, okay, yeah, you're not a fan of Russell Wilson, right? I would have kept Russell Wilson,
Mhm.
not ate all that cap, and drafted a quarterback like JJ McCarthy and have him sit behind Russell Wilson. Wouldn't that be ideal for JJ McCarthy? Sit behind Russell Wilson, who's a proven winner, a guy who's got a lot that he can teach, a young quarterback. Like that's what you want. And to
Mhm.
just release Russell Wilson, let's say you bring in a Taylor Henneke
Mhm.
or someone like that, you're gonna struggle. Those guys aren't good enough to win you many games. So what often happens is the rookie gets thrown in there in week 5, week 6, week 7, and he doesn't get to sit for a full year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you and I talked a lot during the last season about how important it has been for, I mean, we've talked about the Packers and Jordan Love and how that played out. And as a Bears fan, that pisses you off because we have homegrown quarterbacks. We draft
Hmm.
them, everyone gets in an uproar about how we drafted a quarterback and it's an insult to our current quarterback. And we keep them in the locker room, float them around on the bench for a couple of years, and then when they come in the game, you see some signs of glory there, and that would have been an ideal situation for JJ as far as I'm concerned. Loved him at Michigan. I do not think he's, gonna roll in like we've seen certain quarterbacks from Ohio State do over the past year. But
Yeah.
I think I think they made a mistake letting Russ go if they do plan to draft a quarterback this in the first round.
Yeah, I don't know what their plan is. I know it's a rebuild, but like it just doesn't seem like a good situation. With that being the case, I wouldn't take JJ McCarthy there. I would
Yep.
get someone that's more pro ready now, like potentially a Drake May, or they might go for a Bo Nix, but I just don't think that's a good situation. And you're going to put everything on Sean Payton and say, look, we need you to develop a quarterback, and turn this around. But it's a tall ask. And I think you are much better positioned to do that with Russell Wilson on the team than without him. And then that dead cap is just like ridiculous, right?
Yeah, and I mean, you said that they would be putting it all on Sean Payton. I mean, at this point, he needs to take some responsibility, though. So
Yeah.
I'm glad it's going to be blamed on him if this goes awry because he I just get the vibe that he wanted Drew Brees. He wanted just another Drew Brees, just a clone of him. And Russ wasn't that, and he just couldn't adjust his coaching style to fit with Russ. And now here we are. But I mean, talking about rebuilds, let's talk about the number one overall pick, Chicago Bears. I mean, they haven't officially traded away Justin Fields. There's a lot of back and forth and conversations and murmurings about that. You went to the combine. How are you feeling about the Chicago Bears situation right now?
Yeah, so it's uh just real quick, yeah, it was my first combine that I've ever been to. It was awesome. I definitely recommend it for anyone that's never been. And my plan is to go for, as many years in a row as I can. Like I want to go back next year and all the media is there. There's a lot of hype. It's great to see these rookies like, in person, and you get a much better feel in person
Mhm.
than even on TV and all that. So it was a great experience. The Chicago Bears, I mean, they're not going to do what I want them to do. I think the writing is on the wall that they're going to take Caleb Williams at one and trade away Justin Fields. And I think part of that is Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, wants his guy. He didn't draft Justin Fields. He wants his quarterback. And Caleb Williams is one of those guys that shows the potential to be, comparisons to Patrick Mahomes. I don't see the Mahomes comparison. I see Caleb Williams more in like the Kyler Murray comparison. But he's got elite arm talent. He can make all the throws. He's not a statue back there. He doesn't need to be balanced when he throws it. He can kind of flick his wrist and throw from any arm angle. Plus, he's got underrated running ability and escapability and athleticism. So I see why he's going to go number one overall. But to me personally, I would rather keep Justin Fields, build around him. And to me, I think the safest pick in the entire draft, forget the quarterbacks of the entire draft. There's one pick that is a home run pick that is you probably can't go wrong, barring injury. I believe that's Marvin Harrison Jr., the
Yeah.
wide receiver out of Ohio State. And I just think that would be you team him up with DJ Moore and Justin Fields, and I think you've got something explosive, something that you can win with right away. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on the fan. I've been a fan of your train of thought about keeping Justin Fields and building around him. I mean, we've
Hmm.
seen quarterbacks be scapegoated for so many other issues for a team. I mean, we saw it with Baker Mayfield. I feel like we're seeing it with Russ here. Like everything that goes wrong in a season is not the quarterback's fault. Like if you don't give that guy an O-line, you don't put together good enough defense, you don't make sure receivers can catch the ball and stay healthy, the quarterback
Hmm.
can only do so much. So the fact that it seems like teams blame everything that goes wrong on the quarterback of the team makes me a little crazy, and I feel like that's what's happening with Justin Fields here. Like, what did you want him to do this season? Like, who was on that team who was actually going to help him pull together wins. So I feel like
Yeah.
you build around him, and we've seen some really. I mean, he's mobile. He's got really good arm strength. He's pretty accurate. Like we've seen some really great things out of Justin Fields, and I just feel like the Bears are so impatient at the quarterback position. They refuse to grow or to like work with a quarterback. They give them 2 years, and if they haven't, pulled off a winning season, then you're out. And that's been to their detriment over the past few decades. I mean, we've seen it year after year.
Yeah, and make no mistake about it. Like, so they want Justin Fields to develop and they want to blame him, but the Bears are very much responsible for his lack of development. I mean, Luke Getzey is one of the worst offensive coordinators I've ever seen, in my opinion. When they hired him, I said it made no sense to me. You're bringing in a guy that's never called plays before in the most important years of Justin Fields' development. And you go back to 2022, who were his receivers? The number one receiver was Darnell Mooney. And then after that, you're throwing to what? Equinemius St. Brown, Bayless Jones, Dante Pettis, N'Keal Harry, right? Like nobody's. Um, So to ask him to develop in that situation is asking a whole lot. And I feel like he's shown improvement despite that mess. He had 1 year with DJ Moore, and then we did see improvement. So I think if you brought in some offensive line help and you brought in a weapon like Marvin Harrison Jr., and then a big upgraded offensive coordinator with Shane Waldron instead of Luke Getzey, I think that Fields would have a much better opportunity to be successful this year with the Bears if they went that route. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to draft Caleb Williams, and my hope is that, and in my gut also, I think Justin Fields gets traded to the Falcons,
Hmm.
and I think that's the best situation for him. And I'm going to be, pretty much a Falcons fan this year if that happens because I think that he'll be successful. I mean, tell me, what do you think? Do you think Fields can lead the Falcons to the playoffs right away?
I feel like Fields needs a team who believes in him.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect what's happening with, certain teams and coaches going places, and you see them, I mean, their relationship just blossoms when the quarterback is on the right team. And I mean, Justin Fields deserves better than Chicago right now.
Yeah,
And I mean, it sucks for him to, be kicked out of a city when he's, working, we've seen his heart on the line. Like we saw him cry on the sidelines this season. Like it's tough to be in his situation and be trying to do everything you can to pull off wins. So I mean, I'm with you. I do think Atlanta would be a good fit for him. My favorite quarterback who is technically available for Atlanta is Kirk Cousins. But
mm-hmm.
you and I chatted about that a little bit. If he does move, I want him to go to Atlanta. I think that's a great fit for him. I feel like it's an 80% chance he doesn't move at this point. But it'll definitely be interesting to see what Atlanta ends up doing. And I mean, there are other quarterback needy teams and moves I could see happening with different quarterbacks in the league right now. Like the Jets, for example. What do you think is going to happen going into this season? Because I mean, you and I had issues that the whole NFL should have had issues with how they knew what they had in Zach Wilson. They brought in Aaron Rodgers, a veteran quarterback who has had some season-threatening injuries, not ending. He's made some comebacks late in the season before, but you knew how old Aaron Rodgers was. You know older veteran players are prone to injuries, and you were content keeping Zach Wilson as your quarterback room. Like, so I
Yeah.
see them trying to bring in someone who would be a better backup and Zach Wilson moving somewhere. I mean, I think Daniel Jones might be moving around. So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting to see how all these moves play out. Um, so number two for the Commanders, what do you think happens at their quarterback situation? Are they going for a quarterback in the draft? Are they sticking with their guy?
No, they have to go quarterback. Sam Howell is not the guy.
No.
Um, Taylor Heinicke's not the guy. You gotta upgrade the quarterback position. And something interesting here is that uh, Caleb Williams played his high school ball in the Washington D.C. area. On
Hmm.
top of that, new Commanders offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury coached at USC last year. So there's a connection between the Commanders and Caleb Williams. So some people have wondered, will the Commanders try to trade up to one to steal Caleb Williams from the Bears? So there's some thought there. Me personally, I would not do that. I would stay at two. And I think this is a much closer comparison than a lot of people think. Jaden Daniels from LSU,
That's what I was thinking.
he could be a superstar. Uh, he has a lot of talent. He's bigger than Caleb Williams. He's 6'4", 210. Fields is 6'1", 215. He's more athletic. He's more of a dual threat quarterback as far as the athleticism and the running ability. And he's got arm talent as well. You see what he did last year. He's the reigning Heisman Award winner in college football. He tore up the league with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. at receiver. Um, if I'm the Commanders, I'm perfectly happy staying at two and taking Jaden Daniels, and that would really provide a spark to that organization to have a quarterback like that, and he can make some incredible plays, and the fans will love him.
I feel like Jaden Daniels fits better into Cliff Kingsbury's scheme than Drake
Hmm.
May does.
Yeah,
If
for sure.
you had just said the name Kingsbury to me and asked, which quarterback I thought fit with him, regardless of what team he was on, Jaden Daniels would have been my pick. Um,
Yep.
I do know Drake May has, the better pedigree, I think is the way you would describe that. He seems more polished, but Jaden Daniels, he's got some good fire. I don't know. I could see Kingsbury going for him because I feel like the scheme and the personality matchup there would be great.
Yeah, just some stats on him. Jaden Daniels combined for nearly 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and just 4 interceptions last year.
I mean, I, you can't argue with numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Um,
know some people get talked about more and the media is more on them, but I mean,
mhm.
numbers don't lie.
Well, and you see the league trending towards this dual threat quarterback, right? And Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, they fit that modern quarterback mold of what you want. You know, you can't have that prototypical, or you can have it, but it's rare to have a very successful statue quarterback back there that can't run around and make plays when the pocket breaks down, right?
Yeah. Well, so we've talked about Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders. So say you're the Patriots and everyone's still available. Obviously that wouldn't be the what happens because they're at number 3. But if they were to trade up and they were number 1, which quarterback do you think the Patriots would be best suited for with where they're at right now? Because I mean, obviously they could still sign a veteran quarterback. They could,
Hmm.
auction off their pick. They could do a lot of things here, but it seems pretty obvious that they're going to pull a quarterback here. Which quarterback do you think would fit the Patriots the best if they were all available to them?
If the Patriots are going to trade up and go after a quarterback and they want that next franchise guy after Tom Brady, I think if you're trading up and giving up picks to move up, you're going for Caleb Williams. I don't think you're going to trade up to go to get Jaden Daniels. So
Yeah,
you'd
well,
move up.
my question is here, like, let's not talk about trading up, but like just looking at the 3 top quarterbacks, like who do you
Uh-huh.
think would best fit them? Like regardless of like the draft order and stuff, like who do you think fits best into that Patriots offense right now?
I mean, upside based on upside and potential, Caleb Williams has the highest upside and potential. If he's in the right situation with the right coaching staff and the right players around him, Caleb Williams can be Patrick Mahomes esque. He can be an absolute superstar. I've watched a few full games on him now. We're going to do some rewatches and some deep dives from now until the draft. But Caleb Williams is special. Um, my worry about Chicago is we can't develop quarterbacks, right? So he'll come in and we'll ruin them some way or another. New England, they're better at developing quarterbacks, and maybe now that Bill Belichick is gone, they'll have a more modern approach to it. But I think they're going to stay at 3, and I think they're going to go Drake May here. I think he's going to be available. Um, they should kind of hope that it's Jaden Daniels, honestly. But
Mhm.
Drake May, imagine that. Drake May coming into the AFC East, and he's like being compared to Josh Allen. So we could have 2 similar quarterbacks, and that would kind of reunite the rivalry between Patriots and Bills. But I think Drake May, 6'4", 230, he's kind of a poor man's Josh Allen. But if
Yeah.
you develop him properly, he's very similar and has a lot of the same tools.
Yeah, I do think, 4 years from now, I'll like that comparison better, but I'm very protective of Josh Allen. So far, I,
Yeah.
I I don't see it yet. But
Yeah.
that's just
And
me. That's my boy.
And he's had some struggles. I'm not a huge Drake May fan. I watched him against Appalachian State in a couple games last year where it's just like he didn't, play very well against some below, not great teams. Like they should have blown Appalachian State out. And so
Yeah,
I do have
he
some
seems a
questions about
little
him.
a little clumsy sometimes.
Yeah, some turnovers and some
Mhm.
inaccurate throws
I
at
mean,
times.
but there's Josh Allen for you. Like you get the best of Josh Allen and you get the worst of Josh Allen. And I mean, some games that the turnover numbers are not great either. But
Yeah. Yep. And then I think three quarterbacks are going to go 1, 2, 3, and that lands the Cardinals at 4
with
with
Marvin
the
Harrison
with
Jr.
the best player in the draft might
Yeah.
fall 4 to the Cardinals, and he's a son of an NFL Hall of Famer.
Mhm.
His NFL comparison is Larry Fitzgerald, who was a Cardinal. Imagine year one, Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr. That would be a lot of fun to watch.
Well, I've seen some conversations because a lot of people don't like that Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't work out at the combine. They said that it shows, a lack of work ethic and that some teams might be turned off by that. So I have some people that I've seen who are saying Malik Neighbors to the Cardinals at
I
4.
love Malik Neighbors. He
Me
is
too.
he is elite too. I love Malik Neighbors. He's my favorite receiver in the draft. But Marvin Harrison not working at the combine does nothing for me. Like,
No, it doesn't change anything. Like we still saw the
yeah,
season. Like Malik
yeah.
Neighbors, I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he'll be a great NFL receiver. But I mean,
hmm
Indianapolis didn't like they weren't there wasn't much of a highlight reel for them this season. So if you're looking at tape, I mean, you got to go Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah. And something interesting on him. So he had 1,200 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns with C.J. Stroud.
Hmm.
Stroud goes to the NFL, and now he's got Kyle McCord, who isn't nearly as talented as C.J. Stroud. Marvin Harrison puts up once again 1,200 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns with Kyle McCord. So it shows that it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. He's going to
Consistent.
be productive and the best player on the field, right?
Yeah. So I as annoying as it is, I do think Ohio State has been the school for NFL talent over the past couple of
hmm
years. So I'm really excited to see how some of these players do their first, I mean, the rookie season for Ohio State players last year was insane. So I'm excited to see how they fare this year. So at number 5, the Chargers. I have a theory here, and we'll
Okay.
see how it plays out. But what do you think? What do you think happens with this pick? Because we know, I mean, Harbaugh, he has pretty much announced, I'm open for business. This pick is available. If y'all want to offer me a trade, go for it. What do you think happens here?
So not everyone's going to love this, but this is a Jim Harbaugh pick. You've got
Hmm.
Justin Herbert. You've got, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston, those dudes. Um, to me, you're losing Gerald Everett to free agency. I'm gonna give Justin Herbert the best tight end in the draft, Brock Bowers out of Georgia. He's a football guy. Harbaugh loves football guys. He's a great run blocker, pass blocker, great pass catcher. He's a team first guy. He's George Kittle like in that team first. If I don't get the ball all the time, I'm still gonna block and be a great effort and locker room guy. I think you give Justin Herbert, Brock Bowers, along with those receivers. I think you're well on your way to getting that Jim Harbaugh era off on the right foot.
Okay. That would make sense. If they hold on to their pick, I would
Yeah.
I would fair I think that would be fair. I think that would be a wise decision for them. I don't think they keep that pick.
Okay. What
So, I mean,
What do you
we
think happens there?
what I think happens here. So I talked a little bit about Kirk Cousins. In that 20% chance that they don't re-sign Kirk Cousins, or even if they do, because we've talked about JJ McCarthy being someone who needs to sit behind a veteran quarterback. I don't think Kirk Cousins has 6 years left in the NFL. I think he's got, 3 or 4. I think it would make a
hmm
ton of sense here for Minnesota to trade up. The
Okay.
Chargers are set. The Chargers need some, trench help, but I think they could drop down in the draft and still collect what they need. But that team with the new coach, I mean, I think they'll be competitive regardless of what they do in the first round. But Minnesota trading up here, grabbing JJ McCarthy, hopefully to sit behind Kirk Cousins. But if not, I mean, they they've survived without Kirk Cousins in a couple games. I think they could make it work. But I can absolutely see McCarthy being a good fit for Minnesota.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree. I would bring Kirk Cousins back. Kevin O'Connell is a big fan of him.
Mhm.
He
Me too.
definitely wants him back,
I
but
just
it's
feel like
going to
he's
come.
worth a lot of money.
Yeah, it's going to come down to management, but Kevin O'Connell's definitely, I think, put in a good word to bring back Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what we talk about all the time, right? If you're going to draft a quarterback like that, have a veteran that he can sit behind for, at least half the season, if not a full season or two, right?
Yeah, I say Kirk Cousins is one of my favorite three options for McCarthy to sit behind.
Yeah,
Obviously, I don't want my Michigan quarterback in the NFC North being competitive against the Packers. However, if I'm being completely objective here, I think that would be a great fit. Him learning
yeah.
behind Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I could see that. It's going to be interesting. And the Chargers have said that, they're open to trading that pick. So we'll see what happens there. How about your Bills? Well, your AFC team, the Buffalo Bills, releasing defensive stars Tre'Davious White and Jordan Poyer, and then signing Mitch Trubisky, bringing him back to back up Josh Allen. How are you feeling about the Bills at this point?
So they were running into some cap space issues. I mean, they were over cap. They had to, make some moves. But uh, it's I mean,
Those are
there
two
seems to
big
be such
losses.
those are huge losses. Green
Yeah.
Bay will take either of the safeties who were released in the past week. Green Bay could use
Hmm.
a safety for sure. Like I'll take either one. Um,
Kevin
but
Byard, yeah,
yeah,
look at that.
Byard, Simmons, either one can wander over to Green Bay, and that would be great. So
Yeah,
from a selfish standpoint, like it'll be nice to have these people on the open market. I want to see Green Bay do something in free agency, and we rarely ever do. So it'll be interesting how the offseason plays out here. But the Bills had a aggressive lack of cap space, and we already know that defensive line. I mean, Ed Oliver, Rousseau, and Von Miller were the only ones who carried over from last year. And they had the third lowest rate of pressure. So obviously the defensive line is going to be a major issue for them. So I mean, they've got a lot of pieces to pull into place and, kind of finagle through the draft and stuff. But
yeah,
oof,
it's
Micah
gonna
Hyde's
be.
coming to the open market, Taylor
Yeah,
Rapps. I mean, they're in such a tough spot cap wise.
yeah. Taylor Rapp did sign, so that's the good news
Oh, did
there.
he? Okay, I missed that update.
3 year, $14.5 million deal, so that's good. But Leonard Floyd, he's one of their most productive pass rushers. He's, might be gone in free agency.
Well, I mean,
So it's
if
gonna.
do you know if Micah Hyde was signed or not?
No, it looks like he is unrestricted free agent, so I haven't seen anything on him.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's another safety I have my eye on. I mean, he was in Green Bay for a hot second, so he would
Yeah,
be another one to fill that gap. But that's kind of the position I've been watching in free agency. It's been interesting.
yeah, and I'm curious how the Bills are going to respond to this defensively because we
Hmm.
know they're great offensively
Yeah.
every year, and hopefully Joe Brady can continue to keep that offense rolling. But defensively, I mean, eh, are the Bills starting to plateau? Are they Super Bowl contenders? You know what I mean? And kind of a bumpy regular season last year too.
Yeah. A couple mock drafts I've seen have the Bills trading up for the edge rusher out of UCLA. Um,
Okay,
I cannot pronounce his
Latu.
Yeah, Latu. His first name trips me up, but yeah, Latu. Um, and obviously they need some receiver help, and a safety for sure. But edge is another big need of theirs. I mean, edge rushers hitting the open market. I mean, Leonard Floyd obviously is going to be a huge hit, but I think that trade up would make sense. Um, but what are
Yeah.
they? What is their pick number?
Uh, um, Let me
28?
see here. Yeah, I gotta pull that up.
I feel like they're
But
28. So I feel like they'd have to trade up to like the early 20s to get Latu. Like maybe like 20, 21. Because I don't think he'll go in the top 20, but I can see him going in the early 20s.
Latu, yeah, I mean he could go in the teens.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be gone in the teens. Maybe
He
19 at
could.
the earliest.
The he's
He's
getting some love. I have him on my first one. I had him going 14. I mean, they're kind of overrating him a little bit.
I
I
agree.
love Dallas Turner,
Hmm.
Jared Verse. I think he's the third best pass rusher.
It's like, so you have an edge going in the top 15?
Oh yeah, I've got like let me look again. I mean, this
Well,
was a
okay,
couple.
another edge. I have Dallas Turner in the top 10, but
Yeah,
a second one in the top 15.
I've got on my first one that I did, I had three going in the top 15. I got Jared
Wow.
Verse going as well.
Oh, okay.
But there's some good ones. Braylon Trice,
Yeah,
they could get
edge is
him.
really, really thick. It's
Yeah,
a great position in this draft.
yep.
Um, I only had Dallas Turner going in my top 15 for edge, so that's
And
interesting.
he's a monster. I
He's
love
insane.
Dallas Turner. And he had the same 40 time as Romo Dunze, the wide receiver.
Yeah.
So he's an absolute
Who do you
monster.
see as a good fit for Dallas?
Dallas Turner, I could see the Falcons taking him at
Okay.
8.
Yeah. That
Uh,
makes sense.
I'm hoping he falls to 9 to my Bears at 9. I
No.
would love that. But the Bears, watch, he'll fall to 9, and the Bears will be like, no, we don't want him. It'll be Jalen Carter all over again.
My favorite mock draft that I've seen has Carolina trading for the Bears' ninth pick, and taking Odunze.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's so
I could.
circular. Carolina, the Bears just swap it. I just love it. It's just so cute. Like tradesies.
I could see the Bears taking Rome Odunze at 9. He's
Yeah.
not my favorite receiver in the draft, but it makes some sense. And he is a playmaker. You know, he's got some good size to him. I think he's like 6'3", and he's hard to tackle. But you know, Malik Neighbors, like every year,
Mhm.
whether it's
That's
DK
my number
Metcalf,
two for receiver.
yeah, whether it's DK Metcalf or George Pickens this year, Malik Neighbors is my guy. Like I think that he's going to be an absolute star in the NFL.
Yeah. Do you like Odunze better than Brian Thomas Jr.?
Maybe slightly, but I like Brian Thomas Jr. a lot. I would have no problem, and he's expected to go further down. So I would,
Me too.
you know, if you need a receiver, let Romo Dunze go
Go.
earlier. Don't
Yeah.
trade up for him and take Brian Thomas or take. I like Keon Coleman a lot out of Florida State.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I
I
don't know
mean,
why Odunze is ranked so much higher than Brian Thomas Jr. I keep seeing it and I don't understand why.
yeah,
They're pretty even in my book. But
yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Um, One of my favorite things about the combine, I got to see it live. Xavier Worthy take down the 40-yard dash time, the
yeah,
record.
so cool.
Yeah, and
He seems
he
so
really
chill about it
boosted.
too.
Yeah, and he boosted his draft stock with that. Like that, you know how the teams love speed.
Hmm. I mean, you
And
and I.
I watched, I during my Caleb Williams rewatches, I watched the Oklahoma Texas game,
Hmm.
and freshman Xavier Worthy was going absolutely off. I think he had like three touchdowns in that game, at least two, and was big play after big play.
Well, since he, broke the 40 record, there's been a lot of like highlight reels and stuff popping up on Facebook, and he is speedy. Like even in high school, like some of the clips of him just playing around with the guys, like that's the baby Tyreek Hill over there.
Yeah, he's
So,
ridiculous. I'm trying
and
to
it's
find,
trying to find the
yeah,
clip.
the stats.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that game, freshman Xavier Worthy, 9 catches for 261 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Jesus, did he throw the ball to himself too? God. Like
No, it was just going crazy.
that's insane. Good for him. I mean, it'll be definitely be interesting to like play out like the needs of each team and kind of see how things settle. But I think we've got a lot of free agents to keep an eye on over the next week or so. So I'm excited to kind of dig a little bit deeper in our next episode into like each team's needs and our recommendations for them. But
Yeah, absolutely. We're just getting started in this process. We're gonna be doing, some rewatches coming up. Hugh Jackson said he's willing to come on and do a rewatch with us, so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, he has that kind of time because that would be awesome.
what are we thinking for a rewatch with Hugh? Because I would love to break down the postseason Flacco game with him.
Well,
If it's not
so
if it doesn't hurt his heart too much. Um,
well, I think we might be doing with the draft. We might be doing quarterback prospects. So it might
okay.
be a Caleb
Fine.
Williams USC game.
Okay.
I might be doing USC Colorado.
Ooh, I like that one.
Yeah, and
Okay.
then we get to look at Shador Sanders and those guys too.
Coach Prime, yeah. Okay. I'm down with
But
that one.
because it would be nice, I think that would be great content to get Hugh Jackson's takes on Caleb Williams and break him down.
I mean, he was always so insightful. Like his wealth of football knowledge is insane. So
Yeah,
we love having you on. So I'm excited for that episode. So we'll
absolutely, absolutely.
definitely be looking forward to that one for sure.
Well, it was good to get you back on, Amanda. Our schedules are a little bit tough right now, but we're going to try to get out as much content as we can. And, the draft is going to be crazy in Detroit. And, we'll see who gets what. My Bears have a lot of play in this draft, very impactful for them. And your Packers as well. We need a quarterback so that we can hang up with Jordan Love. I'm tired
Well,
of Green Bay
and
having
the
the
Kirk
quarterback.
Cousins JJ McCarthy combo that I want in Minnesota.
Yep,
I'm gonna
yep.
regret wanting that. If that plays out, I feel like I'm gonna be kicking myself for predicting that. Every time Minnesota beats Green Bay with JJ McCarthy, I'm like, God dang it. This is what I wanted. I did this. But
But it's
always
going to be a lot of fun, and we'll keep an eye on the Broncos too. Which
mm,
what are they going to do at quarterback? I'm so confused by that as well. So
it's
the,
a
the, the
hot
off season's
mess.
just getting started, man. It's going to be crazy all off season.
But yeah, guys, if you have any, specific theories about the draft or free agency, any thoughts or questions you want us to kind of break down, we would love to hear from you. So shoot a tweet, send us a
Absolutely.
message, hit us up in the DMs. We'd love to have some interaction about your guys' thoughts as we come into the draft.
Absolutely, and stay tuned. Even though it's the off season, we're not just NFL. We're going to keep the content coming out. We're going to have March Madness content during the NCAA tournament. We're going to be covering the NBA playoffs. I don't know if Amanda's going to be covering that, but I definitely will be. And so stay tuned for all that. We're trying to get some big interviews for that as well. And can't wait to have Hugh on to break down some Caleb Williams as well. So good to have you back on, Amanda. Follow along all off season, guys, and have a great week. Peace out.